Hey, what's up everybody? Johnny from Worship Sound Guy here. So today I'm answering a question that came into us on Instagram from KJ Bozeman. So he wants to know, what should you do with your mains? EQ them, compress them, or leave them flat? So that's a really great question. And the answer is yes. Okay, you want more than that. All right, so I do all of those things depending on what the application calls for. So I like to practice a style of mixing that I call top-down mixing. And basically what that means is I start with kind of my overall mix EQ and compression, and then sort of work my way down into EQing my different groups, and then finally into my individual channels. So this way, I'm EQing first at kind of like the master output level, then say at my entire drum group level, and then the individual drums. That kind of helps shape and mold my mix on a broad level before I end up getting into specifics on individual channels. I've found that if I start by EQing my whole mix, I end up doing less to the individual channels later on, and my whole mix comes together more easily. So in terms of what that EQ and compression generally are, it really depends a lot on what the mix sounds like and what the room sounds like. That's probably the biggest factor. So for me, as I'm mixing, I'm always listening to reference tracks. I'll try to get there a few minutes early so I can like put on my playlist of reference tracks and try to get an idea of what the room and the console and everything sounds like. And that way I'll kind of know like, okay, is this a room with a lot more bass than I'm used to? Or is this a room where things sound muddy? Are there certain problem frequencies that I hear that I need to address at like the master level? And then once I kind of get a good feel for that, I can really know how to EQ my room. So it's sort of like, it's not quite system tuning, but it's at least sort of an extra level of processing that sort of is going to correct for maybe some of the issues in the room, or just certain things that are personal preference for me and like kind of the sound that I like to mix into. Like I said, it kind of like shapes my mix before I start actually mixing. So for compression, there are a few things that I tend to really like. First off, I'm gonna go with a pretty low ratio, somewhere between 2:1 and 4:1. That's kind of sort of that gentle range where I can just get a couple dB of compression and it kind of glues the mix together. That's really all I'm looking for at that level. I just want like a few dB to kind of help bring the mix together and just sort of glue everything. One really great compressor tool that I've found is the SSL bus compressor. Waves makes a plugin version of that, and it just sounds really good. It's kind of one of those classic mix bus compressors that just tends to work really great on a wide variety of material. So on that compressor, I typically like to use the 30 millisecond attack setting and the auto release setting. That's just usually for me somewhere that it just feels really good to get a couple dB of compression at that setting, and it just always sounds kind of awesome. Sometimes I also like to bring in a multiband compressor like the Wave C6 on the master bus just to help gain a little bit of control as I mix. Sometimes that's something I do, and sometimes it's not. It's just kind of on a mix by mix scenario. So if I'm having trouble controlling maybe the low end or the high end, I'll put that in and just kind of mix into that to help control that a little bit further. So once again, I want to stress that this is not the same thing as tuning your system. So that's a whole different ballpark that we will get into, but that's not what this is about. This is just about trying to get your mix to a place where it sounds good to your ears. It's kind of a stylistic thing, honestly. So use those reference mixes, get the system sounding the way you feel like it should sound. It's very much about how it feels as you mix into it. And so use your EQ and compression and maybe some multiband compression to get it to that point, and then you're able to mix into it and you'll get the response and the feel that you're after. So if you want to learn more about stuff like this, we cover a lot of it in our course Sound Guy Essentials. The link is down there in the description. So if you like videos like this, go check out that course. There's a ton of content, hours of content in there. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe below. We'll see you next time.